Hi, this is Vanessa with Designs by Vanessa. In this video, I will demonstrate how to work a knit stitch and a purl stitch. So in my last video, I showed you how to work the cast on, the specifically long tail cast on method. And so we've casted on some stitches. Now we're going to knit. So this is the strand that's attached to the ball. So we're going to learn how to knit and purl. So first we'll knit. So I like to push the yarn close to the edge, and you want to insert your needle through the front loop. So that's the front loop. And then you want to grab your yarn and wrap it around your right hand needle counterclockwise. And then pull up a loop and then slide the stitch off your left hand needle. Again, insert your needle through the front loop, wrap your yarn counterclockwise, pull up a loop, and then slide your stitches off. Let's do that again. Insert through the front loop, wrap your yarn, and pull up a loop, and slide off. So a tip I tell people I teach is when you insert your needle into the front loop of your stitch, you want to keep sliding your stitches to the right, and then make sure your needles are in an X or a T shape. And then when you're sliding, pulling up the loop, make sure your needles are touching. So if you don't keep that shape, this is usually what I see. People do this and then they try to work their stitches and it just doesn't work out. So just remember to keep your needles at an X or a T angle where the needles are perpendicular. And so I like to keep the needles touching when I slide the loop back up. So again, insert your needle, wrap your yarn, and then I like to keep the tip of my right hand needle touching the needle on the left side at all times, and it just makes the transition a little bit smoother. So right there I just snagged a piece of the other yarn. Make sure you don't do that. So wrap your yarn and then pull up that loop and slide it off. Once you get used to this, you'll find your own rhythm and your own way of doing it that's most comfortable for you. So again, insert your right hand needle through the front loop, wrap your yarn, pull up a loop, and slide your stitch off your left hand needle. If you find that this doesn't work for you and you were a crocheter first, try watching my next video where I demonstrate how to knit and purl in continental style. So I'm at the end of the row. Let me just finish this last stitch here, and then let's turn your work and then we will learn how to purl. Okay, so this, you can't really see it yet, but the knit stitches are flat, and then on the wrong side the stitches have little bumps. Those are purl stitches. So a purl stitch is just the back side of a knit stitch. So let's get started. So we were inserting it through the front loop that direction. Now we want the yarn in front of us, so in front of our needles, and you're going to enter the front loop from underneath. Okay, and then you're going to grab your yarn and you're going to wrap your right hand needle counterclockwise in the same manner, and then now you're pulling the loop down, and now you're sliding your stitches off your stitch off your left hand needle. So you want your yarn on the front side, so keep your yarn in the front right here and insert from the bottom to the top of the front loop. Wrap your yarn, keep your needles touching, and pull it down, pull the loop down, and then slide the stitch off your left hand needle. So again, coming up from the bottom, up the front loop, wrap your yarn around your needle, counterclockwise, and then keeping your needles touching, pull the loop down and slide off. Now you don't have to keep your needles touching. See these bumps? That's your purl stitches. So like I was saying, you don't have to keep your needles touching. It's just how the best way I can explain to sort of get your stitches through, because I've seen a lot of people losing the loop or the stitch because there's a space and the stitches will slide off, if that makes sense. Okay, so again, you want to enter from the bottom up, wrap your yarn and pull the loop down and slide your stitch off. So the important thing to remember is your yarn is in the front. When you're knitting, your yarn is in the back. And I didn't really explain that because your yarn was already sort of hanging in the back, but that's the difference, one of the differences with knitting and purling. So I'm gonna go ahead and purl across and slow the video down for you. Alright, that's my last stitch. So now we've completed the wrong side, which is the purl stitches. So we've turned our work, and this is the front. This was your knit stitches. So if you take a look, you can kind of see the differences. So this is flatter on this side, and you see this side has those little bumps because they're your purl stitches. Okay, so now let me show you how to knit and purl on the same side, just so you can see where you're moving the yarn. So now it's in the back, so we're knitting a stitch. So now I'm going to purl, so I'm going to bring my yarn forward and enter the front loop from under to the top. I'm going to wrap my yarn and complete my purl stitch. Pull off the stitch. Now I want to take my yarn and put it back in the back for a knit stitch, going from the front to the back and knitting my stitch. Now I'm going to move the yarn forward again to do a purl stitch. So you just have to keep that in mind if you're doing both on the same side for a pattern. If you're knitting, you like to keep your yarn in the back and then bring it to the front when you're working a purl stitch. Okay, so now let's move it to the back again to work a knit stitch, and then we'll bring it back up to the front and work a purl stitch. Okay, so yarn in back for knit and yarn forward or in the front for purl stitches. Alright, so we've completed our knit and purl stitch row, alternating the two. So let's take a look. If you look here, there's a bump right there, there. So those are the purl stitches, and they have a piece of yarn that sort of goes across it. So if you ever get lost and you don't know where you're at, that's how you tell that they're purl stitches. The purl stitches have a bump. And that is how you work a knit and purl stitch. Thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video.